For the next couple of days, life took on a tense, brittle quality for the Robert family. After Kendra's revelation about Jason's father, they all were constantly on edge. Rebecca kept in regular contact with Simon, waiting for the right moment to act on the evidence. Brandon installed additional bolts on the windows, and they agreed on a nightly watch rotation. Someone would always be alert in case of another break-in attempt. At school, Kendra did her best to maintain a low profile. She limited her interactions mostly to Emily and a few classmates in group projects. Jason respected her request for space. He kept his distance, though she often caught him looking at her with a hot, puzzled expression that made her heart ache. Vanessa, on the other hand, seemed to relish Kendra's withdrawal. With Kendra no longer by Jason's side, Vanessa wasted no time cozying up to him. In class, in the halls, at lunch, she was always nearby, clinging to his arm or laughing at his remarks. Jason tolerated her but was noticeably less spirited than before. Emily commented to Kendra at lunch, "I swear, he looks like a sad puppy. Whatever happened between you two, I hope it can be fixed. He's miserable with Vanessa around." Kendra just shook her head. "I can't, It's complicated. It's better this way." Emily patted her hand. "If you say so, I'm here if you need to talk, You have been so down." "I know, thank you. I'm okay, really. Just stressed about, family stuff." That wasn't a lie, at least, she thought. On Wednesday after school, as Kendra headed to the front gate where Brandon now waited daily to pick her up, Jason approached her. Vanessa was occupied chatting with a friend, so he seized the opportunity alone. "Kendra, please," he said quietly, stepping in front of her. "Just hear me out for a minute." She froze, clutching the strap of her backpack. She saw Brandon's car parked a short distance away. He was watching him intently. "Jason, I told you, I can't." "I don't understand," he said, voice pained. "Everything was going great, and then suddenly you shut me out completely. If I did something wrong, just tell me. I will apologize. I will fix it." Hearing the anguish in his voice, seeing the genuine confusion in his eyes, nearly broke her resolve. She looked down, unable to meet his gaze. "It's not you. It's nothing you did. It's just my family. We have problems. I can't involve anyone else." Jason shook his head. "I don't care how big your problems are. I want to help. You don't have to go through stuff alone. Is someone hurting you? Or did I upset you by asking about your dad?" She tensed. "No, you didn't upset me by that. It's just, after thinking it over, I realized I'm not ready to be close with anyone right now. I'm sorry." It was the vaguest, least satisfying explanation, and she hated herself for giving it. But what else could she do? Jason swallowed hard, frustration evident. "That's not a real explanation, Kendra." "What does not ready even mean? Everything was fine, and then overnight, you decided you don't want to be friends. I don't buy it. Did someone say something about me or about my family?" He added the last part sharply, as if a thought had struck him. Her eyes flicked up to his at that. She must have reacted, because he pressed. "If it's something to do with my father, you should tell me." Her heart pounded. Could he know something? Or was he just fishing? Because he noticed she reacted to mention of family. She tried to keep her face blank. "Jason, please, just drop it. I can't explain. I'm sorry." His jaw clenched. "You can't or you won't. Kendra, we both know something happened. I'm not stupid. Did Vanessa get to you or?" She almost laughed at the idea that this was Vanessa's doing. If only it were that petty. At least then they could have resolved it. No, it's not Vanessa, she said. She saw Brandon start to get out of the car, likely sensing her discomfort. She needed to end this now. Look, I appreciate everything you did for me. You are a great guy, she said, voice wavering. But I can't be around you. It's not safe. The last part slipped out before she could stop it. Jason's eyes widened. Not safe? Why? I would never hurt you. I don't mean it like that, she said quickly. Then how? Is someone threatening you? Is it a crazy ex or something? You can tell me. I can help. My dad can hire security. At the mention of his dad helping, Kendra recoiled visibly, her temper flaring despite herself. I don't want anything from your father. She snapped louder than intended. Jason stared at her as if slapped. A silence hung between them for a second, both of them surprised by the intensity of her outburst. Fine, he said at last, an edge of hurt anger creeping into his voice. If that's how you feel, I thought we trusted each other at least a little. I would have been there for you. He backed away, running a hand through his hair. But I can't force you. Take care, Kendra. He turned and walked off quickly, shoulders stiff, passing Vanessa without a word and disappearing into the parking lot. Tears stung at Kendra's eyes as she watched him go. She hadn't wanted to hurt him like that, but when he mentioned his father, all the pain and anger surged up. What must he think now? That she hated his father for some reason? Maybe he had connected the dots. Maybe not. Brandon was at her side then, gently touching her arm. You okay? That looked intense. She blinked away tears and nodded. Yeah, let's just go home. He didn't pry further as they got into the car. On the drive, he said, we need to be extra careful. If Jason gets suspicious, he might talk to his dad or try to dig around. That could tip them off more. I know, she said miserably, staring at the window. I think I might have messed up. I yelled at him that I don't want anything from his father. He just came out. Brandon winced. Damn, that would definitely raise questions. We'll have to keep an eye out. They got home and told Rebecca what happened. She looked concerned, but tried to reassure Kendra. Don't blame yourself. This was bound to be messy. We'll just adapt. I will let Simon know that Richard's son is entangled with you, in case it affects how we proceed. Perhaps it's even leveraged somehow, though I wouldn't want to involve the boy. Kendra shook her head. No, leave Jason out of this. He doesn't know anything. That evening, tension remained high. Brandon paced the living room like a caged tiger. We can't just sit and wait for them to hit us again, he said. We should be on the offensive or something. With what? A baseball bat? Rebecca replied warily. We are not exactly an elite strike team, sweetheart. We have to be smart and patient. Simon will tell us when it's time to go to the police safely or release the info. Brandon clenched his fist. It's just, I hate this. I hate feeling helpless. That punk who keeps hassling me. I'm about ready to teach him a lesson too. At that, Rebecca's eyes sharpened. Has that boy been bothering you again? Brandon shrugged. Saw him lurking near the grocery store today. I ignored him and came straight home. But he's got it out for me, Clary. Maybe he's connected to them, Kendra mused. What if he's been following us or was paid off? Unlikely, Rebecca said, but she didn't sound fully convinced. He's probably just a neighborhood thug with an ego problem. But still, you should avoid him, Brandon. No going out alone unless necessary. Brandon sighed and flopped onto the couch. Understood. Night fell. They ate a simple dinner, and after, Rebecca retreated to her room to call Simon for an update on his progress. Brandon and Kendra settled in the living room, the TV playing some sitcom that neither was actually watching. As 9 p.m. approached, Brandon got up and went to the kitchen. He returned wearing his jacket. "I need to get some fresh air." Kendra looked up in alarm. "Brandon, Mom said," "I know. I won't go far. I'll just walk to the end of the street and back." "I'm going stir crazy in here." He patted the pocket where she knew he kept a small pocket knife. "I'll be fine. I need to clear my head." She bit her lip. "At least take your phone and keep it on. And if you see that guy or anything weird, run, okay?" He cracked a grin to ease her worry. "Yes, ma'am. I'll be 10 minutes tops." He slipped out the front door, locking it behind him. Kendra watched him from the window as he headed down the dimly lit street. The neighborhood was quiet, most homes dark or with flickers of TV light in windows. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Brandon walked down the street, hands in his jacket pocket, drawing the night air into his lungs in deep breaths. The cool breeze felt good, calming his nerves a little. He hated making Kendra and his mom worry, but he needed this brief escape from the suffocating tension in the house. He reached the end of their street and turned the corner, passing closed shops and the dimly lit petrol station a block away. The neon sign reflected off the pavement. He considered going in to grab a soda, but something made him hesitate. An instinct, perhaps, that he shouldn't linger too far from home. As he decided to turn back, a figure emerged from a shadowed alley between a roundabout and a pawn shop. Brandon's muscles tensed as he recognized the swagger in the man's step even before the streetlight revealed his face. It was the same stocky thug who had been harassing him, Zen. And this time, he wasn't alone. Two other young men stepped out behind him, fanning out to partially block the sidewalk. Brandon's heart kicked into a higher gear. He quickly glanced around. The street was otherwise empty, and the shops were closed. Shouting might draw the attention of the petrol station attendant, but they were a good distance from it. Zen grinned, though a bruise from their last scuffle mottled his jaw. "Hey there, new guy. Out for an evening stroll?" His tone was mocking, and his eyes gleamed with malice. Brandon clenched his fist inside his pocket, feeling the small folding knife pressed against his thigh. He hoped he wouldn't have to use it. Fighting 3 people alone was bad odds, knife or not. "Not looking for trouble," he said evenly, taking a step to the side to see if he could slip past. One of Zen's friends, a taller guy with a shaved head, stepped into his path. "Too late for that. You already found trouble," he sneered. Zen cracked his knuckles. "You made me look stupid the other day, walking away like you were better than me. My boss didn't like that either. Thinks you need a real lesson." Brandon's mind raced. Boss? This seemed more planned than just a personal grudge. "Look, I don't want any fights. I'm just heading home." "Not before we have a chat," Zen said. "What is someone's very interesting in you?" "Why is that? Huh? You a snitch or something?" Brandon realized with a chill that this might be connected to the bigger danger, not just a random feud. The thought emboldened him. If these guys were working for Coleman, they weren't going to leave him alone anyway. He had to get out or incapacitate them and run. "None of your business," Brandon retorted, taking a defensive stance. "Last warning, leave me alone." Zen backed a laugh. "Oh, he thinks he's giving warnings." He lunged forward with a sudden punch aimed at Brandon's face. Brandon dodged barely, a fist grazing his ear. He countered with a hard jab to Zen's gut. Zen let out an oof, but the other 2 attackers sprang into action. The third one grabbed at Brandon's jacket from behind, and the third, a weary teen, swung a metal pipe that swooshed past Brandon's shoulder. Adrenaline surging, Brandon stumped backward on the foot of the one grabbing him, making the tall guy yelp and losing his grip. He then wailed and landed an elbow to the man's nose. There was a crunch and a shout as the thug stumbled back with a hand to his bleeding nose. The pipe wielder charged again. Brandon narrowly ducked the swing and delivered a solid punch across the guy's jaw, sending him reeling into the alley wall. Zen recovered enough to tackle Brandon from the side. They both went down hard on the sidewalk, fists swinging. Brandon took a hit to his cheek. Pain burst across his face, but he managed to roll, pinning Zen beneath him. He rammed a knee into Zen's ribs once, twice. Zen howled in pain. Brandon's victory was short-lived. The tall thug, face smelled with blood from his broken nose, grabbed Brandon by the shoulders and yanked him off Zen, throwing him to the ground. Brandon's head smacked the pavement and stars exploded in his vision. Dazed, he tried to get up, but a brutal kick from the very thing connected with his stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Brandon gasped, calling up instinctively. Zen dragged himself to his feet, wheezing. "Enough playing. Get his arms," he ordered. The two goons seized Brandon's arms and held him upright. He struggled, but weakened from the blow. He couldn't break free. Zen pulled a switchblade from his pocket and flicked it open. He pressed it against Brandon's cheek, right on the bruise from before. "Now, you're gonna come with us for a little ride. Someone important wants to meet you," he snarled. Brandon glared at him despite the blade beating into his skin. "Go to hell," he spat. Zen shrugged. "Maybe later. For now, you are going for a drive." He nodded to his accomplices. They began forcing Brandon towards the mouth of the alley. As Brandon was dragged forward, he saw headlights as a dark van rolled up, almost silent. The side door of the van slid open. Inside stood a large silhouette of a man and another holding what looked like a baton or taser. Panic fled in Brandon's chest. This was it, the real kidnappers. He dug his heels in, trying desperately to wrestle free. "Kendra!" he shouted at the top of his lungs, hoping against hope his sister might hear him from home, even though it was far. "Kendra, run!" One of the thugs clamped a hand over his mouth and punched him hard in the kidney. Agony ripped through Brandon's side. One man from the van came down. A tall, heavy-set man with a balaclava on. He moved with professional swiftness, helping the others shove Brandon towards the van. Suddenly, there was a shout behind them. "What's going on?" The petrol station attendant, drawn by the noise, had come to the corner holding a phone as if about to call the police. "Crap!" Zen hissed. He gestured to his friends. "Get him, hurry!" Brandon seized the moment of distraction. With a surge of adrenaline, he wrenched one arm free and elbowed the tall thug holding his left side. Then, he drove his head back into the face of the one on his right, both losing their grip. He almost broke away, feet scrambling, but Zen lunged and slashed him with his knife. Pain tore across Brandon's upper arm as the blade cut him. He cried out, and the delay was enough for the masked man from the van to swing his baton with a crack against the back of Brandon's skull. Everything went blurry. Brandon's legs buckled. He felt himself being caught under the armpit and heaved into the van. His consciousness wavered, sound becoming muffled. The last things he saw as the van door slammed shut were Zen and his two cronies bolting in the opposite direction, maybe to avoid being caught by the witness. An interior of the van illuminated by a dim light, two men securing his wrist with zip ties. Then all went dark as he lost consciousness. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Kendra told herself to stay calm. Maybe he just walked a little further to the next block. At the 20-minute mark, her nerves got the better of her. She grabbed her phone and dialed Brandon. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. She tried again, the same result. Her heart thought something wasn't right. She hurried to her mother's room. Rebecca was sitting on the edge of her bed, phone in hand as well. "Mom, is Brandon back?" Kendra asked anxiously. Rebecca's face was tight with worry. "No, I was just trying to call him too. He's not answering." "I'm going to look for him," Kendra said immediately. "Wait." Her mother stood up. She went to the living room and retrieved her handgun from where it was tucked under an armchair cushion. "I'm coming with you." Together, they stepped out into the night, locking the door behind them. The street was quiet, a few lamps casting pools of light. They walked quickly towards the corner of the block, calling Brandon's name in hushed tones so as not to alarm neighbors. No sign of him. They reached the end of the street where it crossed a slightly busier road lined with closed shops and the 24-hour petrol station a block down. As they neared the petrol station, which had a convenience store where Brandon sometimes bought snacks or cigarettes, they saw something on the pavement that made Kendra's blood run cold. A cell phone lay near the mouth of an alley. Its screen cracked. It was Brandon's phone. She recognized the sticker on the case, a Manchester United logo. "Mom," she breathed, pointing. Rebecca picked up the phone, hands shaking. "Oh God, Brandon," she shouted, urgently scanning the area. A faint groan came from the alleyway. Kendra's heart leaped. There, near a dumpster, she saw a figure lying on the ground. They rushed over. It was a young man with a bleeding forehead and a bruised face, lying on his side. For a split second, Kendra thought it was Brandon, but this man was thinner, with sandy hair. He wore a leather jacket, and she recognized him. It was the thug who had attacked Brandon before. He was barely conscious, eyes fluttering open as they crouched over him. "What happened?" Rebecca demanded, keeping the gun out but pointing down. The thug, Zen, grimaced in pain. "That guy, crazy, he mumbled. Kendra realized Brandon must have fought him here, and judging by the thug's condition, Brandon might have won or at least dealt some damage. But where was Brandon now? She grabbed the thug's collar. "Where is my brother? What did you do?" The thug groaned. "I don't know. He fight." Rebecca's patience was razor thin. She pointed the gun at Zen's knee. "Tell us what happened now, or I swear I will make sure you can't walk again." That seemed to focus him. His eyes widened at the gun. All right, he slurred. "I was just posed to rough him up, to send a message." "Whose message?" Rebecca snapped. Zen coughed, spitting blood. "Some rich dude paid my boss. Said scare the new guy off, hurt him for what he did at his old job or something. I don't know, man. I just swung at him, but he fought back hard." Kendra's blood went cold. A rich dude? That had to be Coleman or one of his cronies. "Where is Brandon now?" she demanded, shaking Zen. Zen winced. Someone else took him. After he knocked me out, I think. When I came to, his car was still there, but he wasn't. Saw a van driving off, black van, out that way." He feebly pointed towards a road that led towards the highway. A black van. It was the same van that a neighbor had mentioned seeing after the break-in attempt. Perhaps their pursuers had escalated their game. Rebecca let out a choked noise, half fury, half despair. "You idiot," she hissed at Zen. "You have no idea what you have gotten involved." Zen just groaned and rolled onto his back, seemingly in too much pain to care. Kendra talked at her mother. "Mom, we have to call the police, and we have to tell Simon. They have Brandon." Rebecca nodded, tears in her eyes but holding herself together. She glared once more at the thug on the ground. "If my son is hurt, pray the police find you before I do." Then She took Kendra's hand and they hurried back towards their house, half running. As they ran, Rebecca called emergency services. Her voice trembled, but she gave a clear account. Her son had been abducted. The assailant, possibly armed and dangerous, driving a black van heading west from their location. She also mentioned an injured attacker left behind who needed to be picked up. By the time they reached home, 2 police cars were already pulling up in response to the call, lights flashing. The commotion drew a couple of curious neighbors out to their porches, but police kept them back. A whirlwind of questions followed. Officers took descriptions, asked if they knew who was behind it. Rebecca and Kendra exchanged a knowing look and decided to give a version of the truth, that they suspected a man named Richard Cole was behind it due to the past conflict with their family, and that he might be trying to hurt them. That raised eyebrows and prompted more calls as the name was recognized by one of the officers. Within the hour, a detective arrived to speak with them, Detective Parks, a gruff middle-aged man with sharp eyes. He listened to their story in the living room, where Kendra sat numbly on the sofa, numb with worry. Rebecca recounted as much as she dared. That her late husband had information on Coleman's crimes, that he died suspiciously, and now Coleman's people had come after them and taken her son. Detective Parks looked astonished. Ma'am, these are very serious allegations. Richard Coleman is a powerful figure. If what you are saying is true, we need to get you both protective custody immediately. Rebecca hesitated, glancing at Kendra. I have evidence, but I need to know my son is safe first. We will do everything we can to find him, Parks assured. We have got units looking for the black van. We also have that pap you left alive. He's been taken to the hospital under guard and we'll question him further once he's stable. Kendra's hands were shaking uncontrollably now. She felt cold, even though adrenaline still pumped through her. This wasn't some distant threat anymore. Brandon was in their clutches. Her lively, brave brother, who always protected her, was now at the mercy of killers. She couldn't hold back her tears any longer. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Rebecca sat next to her and held her tightly, her own tears flowing. We'll get him back, Kendra. We will, her mother whispered fiercely, as if saying it with enough conviction would make it true. The scene felt surreal to Kendra. Police radios crackling in their home, an officer standing guard at the door, the detective making calls to organize an alert for the van, neighbors gawking from a distance. It was like stepping into a crime drama, except it was her life. Eventually, Detective Parks finished coordinating with his team. He turned to them, voice gentle. We are going to take you both to a safe location, a hotel or perhaps the station for now, until we have Brandon back. We have patrols searching and have called in some highway patrol for that van. It's best if you come with us, in case whoever took him tries to come back here or use you as leverage. As if on cue, Rebecca's phone rang, the secure one Simon gave her. She answered it on speaker. Simon? Simon's voice came through, taut with concern. Becky, I just heard. Are you alright? And Kendra? Rebecca glanced at the detective, who frowned at the unknown voice. She quickly said, I'm at home. The police are here. Brandon is gone. They took him. I know, Simon said. I have contacts listening to police channels. Listen, don't trust everyone there blindly. Coleman has eyes in the force. Make sure a certain Detective Ross is not involved. He's on Coleman's payroll. Parks is good if he's there. And Parks, the detective said, a bit startled to be addressed. Who is this? Rebecca answered. A trusted friend who has been helping us gather evidence. He is very cautious. Simon spoke quickly. Detective Parks, Richard Coleman has a lot of influence. You need to move fast before word gets to him that you are involved, or he will cover his tracks. And watch out for an Officer Ross or anyone from Precinct 5. They might tip Coleman off. Pax nodded slowly, taking in the information. Understood. We'll be careful. We are going to take Rebecca and Kendra to a safe place. Can you meet us to provide any evidence or intel? Yes, Simon replied. I have copies of some of the evidence in case Rebecca needed me to act. I will meet you at the Central Police Station in an hour. They ended the call. Pax looked at Rebecca. That friend of yours seems well informed. He used to work with my husband, she said simply, and we have already had one officer in our old town sell us out to Coleman's people, so please forgive our caution. Pax raised his hands. Understood. Right now, priority is finding Brandon. Let's get you safe. Then we can strategize. Detective, Kendra said, standing up and wiping her face, her voice rough from crying. Please, they might hurt him to get to us. We need to find him fast. If Coleman really has him, he might try to trade. Her words were cut off by the ring of the house phone, a landline they had installed recently for security. Everyone fell silent. Rebecca went to the phone on the side table and answered on speaker, anticipating who it might be. A deep male voice came through. Mrs. Roberts. It was not a question. The voice was modulated, perhaps through a device. But something about the tone made Kendra think of the few times she had heard Richard Coleman speak on TV or videos. Smooth, educated, cold. Rebecca's jaw set. Coleman. Detective Pax motioned for quiet and gestured to his partner to start a trace on the call. You have been very troublesome, Rebecca, the voice said casually. Moving all over, hiding, and now involving the police? That wasn't very smart. You have my son, Rebecca said with a tremor of barely controlled rage. If you hurt him, you know what I want, Coleman interrupted, voice hardening. The file, all copies, all data, bring it to me, and you will get the boy back. Keep playing games with cops and spies, and I will start sending pieces of him to you. We are done warning. Kendra felt sick to her stomach. She grabbed her mother's arm for support and felt her mother clutch her hand. Where and when? Rebecca asked, her tone steely despite the tears running down her cheeks. I will text you a location tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. If I see a hint of police or your hacker friend, your son will suffer. And Rebecca, just so we are clear, if you don't show, he dies. If you show without the file, he dies. If you or your daughter try anything funny, well, I think you get the idea. The call cut off. Kendra let out a shuddering breath. Detective Pax slammed his fist down. Damn it. He hung up too quick. Couldn't get the trace in time. Rebecca squared her shoulders. It doesn't matter. He will send the location. I'm going to do what he says. Pax looked at her like she was crazy. Ma'am, you cannot go alone into the hands of these people. They will kill all of you once they have what they want. Maybe, but I'm not losing my son, he said fiercely. I will give him the real file if that's what it takes. Mom, no, Kendra exclaimed. If you give it up to him, he wins. That's that. All of this would be for nothing, and he might still kill you and Brandon. We'll have to outsmart him somehow, Rebecca replied, voice thick with emotion, yet determined. She looked at Pax. Detective, we have about 24 hours. We need a plan. Brandon awoke to throbbing pain in his head and a nauseating swell of dizziness. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The air smelled of rust and damp concrete. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he remembered the alley, the fight, the van. His heart pounded as he tried to sit up, only to discover his wrists were bound with plastic zip ties behind a metal chair. His arms screamed in protest at the awkward angle, and a sharp sting on his upper arm reminded him of the knife slash he had suffered. Dried blood crusted on his sleeve and skin. He forced himself to take slow, shallow breaths. Panicking would only make it worse. Stay calm, assess. That's what his father had taught him long ago when he was a kid learning first aid for Boy Scouts. The thought of his father, Michael, brought a lump to Brandon's throat. 2 years ago, and now Brandon might be about to share his fate. No, don't think like that. Blinking fully awake, Brandon took stock of his surroundings. He was in a large empty room, no, a warehouse of some sort. Faint moonlight slanted through high windows with broken glass, illuminating stacks of wooden crates and old machinery. The place looked abandoned. In the dim light, he could make out two figures by what looked like a sliding warehouse door, about 20 feet away. They hadn't noticed he was awake. One of the men was pacing by the cherry red glow of a cigarette. The other leaned against a crate, cradling what might have been a rifle. Brandon's mouth was dry and tasted of blood. He shifted slightly and felt a flare of agony from his ribs and the back of his skull. They must have hit him pretty hard. He remembered fighting in the alley, a van, then a crack of pain and nothing. That memory brought a surge of emotion, fear for his sister. He had shouted for Kendra to run. Had she had him? Probably not. He prayed she was safe with Mom and the police by now. One of the guards by the door spoke up, his voice echoing. "Boss says he will be here tomorrow night." He grumbled. "What's taking so long? Why not just finish this now?" The other man, the one with cigarettes, replied sharply. "Because, idiot, the boss wants the file. He needs the mom to bring it." "Can't get that if the kid is dead already, can he? We wait until the exchange." He took another drag, the end of his cigarette flaring orange in the dark. "You had him. Midnight tomorrow. Until then, we sit tight and keep an eye on Junior here." Brandon's stomach clenched. They were using him as a bite to force Mom to bring the file. He had no doubt what file that was. The evidence his father died for. A surge of guilt and desperation washed over him. His mother would surely bring it. She wouldn't risk his life. But if she handed it over, Coleman would win. That sacrifice would be for nothing. He tugged softly at the zip ties, testing them. They were tight and strong. His ankles were bound to the chair legs with duct tape. There would be no easy escape. The slight noise he made caught the attention of the guard with the rifle. "Hey, I think Sleeping Beauty is awake," the man called. He strode over, heavy boots, thudding on the concrete floor. With the faint light behind him, Brandon couldn't see the man's face well, just a hard outline. The guard prodded Brandon's leg with the gun barrel. "Enjoy your nap, pretty boy." Brandon mustered a glare. "Go to hell," he rasped, voice dry. The man chuckled. "In due time. First, we'll make sure you are nice and gift-wrapped for Daddy's arrival." He squatted down and grabbed a fistful of Brandon's hair, yanking his head back. Brandon winced but refused to cry out. Up close, the guard's breath smelled of nicotine and stale beer. "You gave my pals a real headache back there," the thug snarled. Brandon recognized him now. He was the tall one whose nose Brandon had broken in the fight. The man's nose was swollen and crooked, taped clumsily, and his eyes were full of hate. "Broke my damn nose. I should return the favor and break something of yours." "Boss said no messing him up," the other guard called from the doorway, but without much conviction. The tall thug sneered. "Just a little love tap. Boss would thank me if the kid is more docile." He released Brandon's hair, only to drive a brutal punch into Brandon's side, right where he had been kicked earlier. Brandon gasped as white-hot pain splintered through his rib cage. Bound to the chair, he could do nothing but double over as far as the restaurant allowed, fighting the urge to vomit. "Dance for my nose," the man spat, standing up. "Be a good boy, and maybe no more bones get broken before showtime." With a final shove that nearly tipped the chair, the thug turned and walked back towards the door. Brandon coughed, struggling to breathe through the agony, and blinked back tears. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing him cry or beg. As the guard settled again by the entrance, Brandon closed his eyes, trying to center himself. He could hear them murmuring and occasionally laughing quietly. He caught snippets, crude jokes, complaints about the cold, and once the name Coleman. It sent a jolt of anger through him. Richard Coleman, the man who had engineered his father's death, who had haunted his family for 2 years, and now he had Brandon at his mercy. A spark of defiance flared within Brandon despite the pain. "I won't let you win," he thought, echoing what Kendra so often said. "Mom, Kendra, I trust you will find a way. Just hang on until tomorrow night. I will hang on too." He straightened as much as he could and silently began working the edges of the zip tie against the sharp corner of a metal brace on the chair. If there was any chance to free himself, he had to try. The first pale light of dawn crept over Johannesburg's skyline, but Kendra hadn't slept at all. She sat in a small meeting room at the Johannesburg Central Police Station, arms wrapped around herself, feeling the residual chill of the long night. Rebecca sat next to her, looking drawn and exhausted yet resolute. Across the table was Detective Parks, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand, and beside him stood Simon. Simon's presence was both comforting and alarming to Kendra. Comforting because he was her father's old friend and he had been helping them from the shadows. Alarming because if Simon was here in person, it meant things were truly there. He was a wily man in his late 30s with close cropped hair and intelligent eyes behind glasses. Kendra remembered meeting him once years ago when her dad was still alive. He had a techy, nervous energy, and now he was rapidly typing on a laptop, several cables snaking out of it to devices on the table. Detective Parks cleared his throat, drawing Kendra's attention. In the fluorescent light, the gruff, middle-aged detective face looked even more crazy than it had last night at their home. "All right," he said, voice low but steady. "Recap for everyone. We have a kidnapping of Brandon Roberts, 22, by parties working for Richard Coleman. Ransom demand isn't money, but a certain sensitive file in Mrs. Roberts' possession. Exchange set for midnight tonight. Location to be provided." Rebecca nodded, jaw clenched. "He hasn't texted the location yet. Likely he will send it last minute to prevent us from planning an ambush." "Typical," Parks muttered. "We will have to be ready to move the moment we get it. In the meantime, we can try to predict where he might take Brandon." He glanced at Simon. "You said you have intel on Coleman's assets." Simon pushed his glasses up his nose, eyes not leaving his screen. "Working on it. I have some records of Coleman's business dealings. Artwood Mining owns several sites around Gauteng. Many are legitimate mines or offices, but I'm flagging ones that are close off the books. A remote safe house or warehouse is likely." His fingers danced over the keys. "If I had more time, I could maybe trace the call from last night or the phone number, but he used some sort of encrypted line. No luck so far." Kendra looked between them, anxiety gnawing at her. They were talking logistics, but all she could think was Brandon, alone, hot, terrified. She pictured him tied up in some dark room and had to swallow hard to push down a wave of panic. At least they would manage to keep this out of the media so far. Parks had ordered radio silence to avoid tipping Coleman off or spooking him into doing something rash. The official report for now was vague, not naming Coleman, just saying a young man was abducted and police were investigating. A uniformed officer knocked and entered, handing Pax a folder. Pax flipped it open. From the thug you two apprehended. Zen, is it? He gave a nod of respect towards Rebecca and Kendra for subduing the attacker. He's in the hospital under guard. We got a brief statement. He claims he was hired by a local gang boss, who was in turn hired by Coleman's people to harass your family. Goon doesn't know much else, but he did overhear something about a warehouse west of the city. Kendra leaned forward, hope sparking. Did he give an address? Pax shook his head. No. He blacked out before seeing where the van took Brandon. Just remember the driver saying something about heading to the highway westbound and meeting at the old plant. Not much, but it's something. Old plant. Could be an abandoned industrial site, Simon mused, eyes flickering across data on his screen. West of the city, perhaps around Kroger's Dop or Rand Fountain, where there are old mining facilities. Rebecca rubbed her temples. Coleman used to talk business with my husband about a refinery or a plant. I didn't pay much attention, but Michael mentioned once that Atwood Mining had a processing plant that shut down years ago due to some accident. If only I could remember the name. Simon's eyes lit up. Yes, I recall that. Hold on. He pulled up a document. Here. Atwood Mining's Horizon plant. Decommissioned 8 years ago after a worker fatality and subsequent safety violations. It's out towards Westoria, west of Johannesburg. Officially abandoned. He glanced at Pax. Coleman might be using that site. It's remote, but still accessible from the highway. Pax nodded slowly. It fits. We'll put a pin in that. We should still be prepared for the meeting anyway. But we can send some undercover eyes to scoop that plant today. Kendra had been quiet, a storm of emotions brewing. Now she spoke up, voice small but firm. We are not just going to wait, are we? We can't leave Brandon with those monsters all day. He could be... Her voice hitched, unable to complete the thought. Rebecca reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand. Honey, I hate it too, but we have to be careful. If we rush in and Coleman isn't there, his men might panic and hurt him. Her face contorted with the same fear that gripped Kendra's heart. The priority is getting Brandon back safe and capturing Coleman if possible. We mess this up, we might not get a second chance. Detective Parks leaned forward, looking Kendra in the eye kindly. I promise you, we are not sitting on our hands. I've already contacted a special tactical team on standby. The special task force, he added, noting Kendra's questioning look. Think of them like our SWAT, highly trained for hostage rescues. Once we confirm Brandon's location, they will gear up. He sipped his coffee and continued. But Coleman is cunning. If he sniffs us out, he might use your brother as a shield or worse. So we have to do this right. That likely means staging the exchange to draw Coleman in while having backup already. Rebecca inhaled slowly. So I still go tonight alone with the file as he demanded. We just make sure we are not actually alone. Pax gave a grim smile. Exactly. We'll be your shadow, Mrs. Robert. Coleman would think he's calling the shot, but we'll choreograph the scene as much as possible. He won't see us until it's too late. Kendra shivered. It was a solid plan, but so much could go wrong. And one thing bothered her. What about the file? If Mom hands it over, won't we lose our leverage? What if his men grab it and run? Simon answered, still typing. We are considering a decoy or a duplicate. Possibly a flash drive with a tracker embedded. Or one that looks legit but is encrypted so they can't read anything until we unlock it. I have a clean USB drive here I can prepare. If Coleman tests it on a laptop, it will show dummy files that look real enough. Rebecca frowned. And what about the real evidence? A bit of silence. Then, I have it, said a voice from the doorway. All heads turned. In the doorway stood a slender teenage boy with messy brown hair and an anxious expression. Jason. Kendra's heart skipped. Jason? She breathed, half surprised, half relieved to see him, then instantly wary. She hadn't expected to see Jason Coleman here, of all places. He stepped inside, flanked by another plainclothes officer who must have escorted him. Jason's eyes went straight to Kendra, searching her face. I'm sorry to barge in, Jason said, voice trembling slightly. But I heard about Brandon and I think I can help. I brought something. In his hand, he was clutching a sleek black tablet. He held it out awkwardly. Detective Parks stood up, blocking any closer approach to the Robert woman, protective. And you are? Jason Coleman, the boy replied, swallowing hard. Richard Coleman's son. At that, every officer in the room stiffened. One even reached towards his holster on instinct. Rebecca stood as well, moving in front of Kendra. Kendra rose, too, but her gaze stayed on Jason. He looked exhausted, dark shadows under red-rimmed eyes, like he hadn't slept either. Parks held up a calming hand to the other officer, then looked at Jason. Son, you realize you are walking into the middle of a police operation involving your father. Why are you here? Jason nodded rapidly, licking his lips. He was visibly nervous but determined. Because I think my father has lost his mind, and I don't want anyone else to get hurt. His voice broke slightly. I care about Kendra and her family. I didn't know what my dad was involved in until last night, I swear. Kendra stepped around her mother, ignoring Rebecca's arm that tried to hold her back. Jason, what did you find out? She asked softly. His eyes locked onto hers, relief flickering in them just at hearing her voice without the anger she had last shown him. After what happened at school, I knew something was wrong. He said it wasn't safe around me, and you got weird about my father. He took a shaky breath. I confronted him last night when he got home late. He was different, agitated. I asked if he knew your family, if he had anything to do with you not wanting to see me. He brushed me off, but I could tell he was hiding something. Jason held up the tablet. So I snooped. This is his. He left it in his study when he went to shower. It was unlocked. I found emails, texts. I took pictures with my phone of everything I could. Then I grabbed the tablet and snuck out before he noticed.